Hello, my name is Noelle Fuller, and welcome to my discovery project of Chinese ink paintings and poetry. For my discovery project, I will be sharing what I have created relating to traditional Chinese ink paintings, poetry, and calligraphy. This is relevant to our course because in the Qin Dynasty it was common to use ink and brushes on rice paper to create paintings and use calligraphy to write poetry. I have created 3 traditional ink paintings. All 3 are landscape paintings, but 2 are inspired by Asian environments, while the other one is inspired by the environment that I live in, which is in southern Utah, USA. I have also written a poem to go with my Utah ink painting and written it in Chinese characters and did my best to do some calligraphy with it. Okay, so I got this Chinese calligraphy and ink painting set. It came with some traditional brushes, as well as an inkstone and an ink stick. I initially didn't realize how much I needed to grind the inkstone for the correct consistency of the ink. I didn't realize this till much later on in my process. I also didn't realize how to correctly hold the brush, but I did my best. Here I am painting or trying to paint a red rock Utah inspired landscape using this ink. I thought it would be a cool concept of doing Chinese ink painting but using a different environment than they usually would have used because they're in Asia, right? So they're going to use Asia environment in their paintings. So I thought it would be cool to see how it would look with a different environment in my own environment. And then I wrote a poem to go along with my painting because many paintings had poems that would go with them. And I think that is so beautiful and such a cool kind of technique to do of involving poetry and your art. And it's something I might do as an artist with my art. Anyway, I still haven't realized the correct consistency of the ink, but I'm trying. The hard thing about this is once you make a mistake, your piece is kind of ruined and you have to just scrap it and go on to the next one. It shows the amount of patience that Chinese people had for this ink painting and the amount of pages it has just to do. I'm also writing my poem down. I'm writing in characters. It took a lot longer than that showed, and it is kind of sloppy and terrible, but I did the best that I could. And here I am doing more. I finally had gotten the consistency right down. I realized I had to grind it a lot more and make it a thicker consistency, and it didn't bleed as much on the paper, and it was a lot easier to work with. And I was coming up with a lot better results than I had been. I also figured out how to hold my brush so it could be a lot thinner or thicker, and I was doing a lot better. But it was good I had those practice runs. I got it out of me so I could create something like this. So here is one of my paintings that use an Asian environment, and you get those mountains and those trees, and this was so fun to do. It was so freeing, um, because you don't have to be very specific. It's very gestural, suggestive of what it is. It's abstract but representational at the same time. Same with this one. I didn't have a direct reference. I kind of just went off the top of my head what kind of felt and looked right. And that's a lot of the videos that I would watch, or the video I watched for this was exactly that, was just kind of being a little loose at it at first and then being a little bit more precise with the details. I really enjoyed it and thought it looked really cool at the end. It made me realize how much patience people had with the ink and with painting and how much learning, because you look at those and they'll have a lot of detail and a lot of work done. This is just like very probably preschool level paintings. Here is my painting that I attempted to do with my own environment. I did the best I could. I didn't really know how to transcribe it in the same way. The desert is very different than mountains and trees. And I wanted to do this red rock because I did use a direct reference to this, and I thought it was a cool design that would be fairly simple, but it turned out not to be as simple. Anyway, here is my Chinese calligraphy of my poem that I wrote and then transcribed into Chinese or Mandarin and then wrote the characters out. You can see how bad my calligraphy and character work is. In high school I took some Mandarin lessons, and I mean, I learned as much as I could, but the retaining knowledge of the language isn't that great. But we did learn how to write Chinese characters, and there's a specific way to do it, and there's a specific movement. And I did my best, and I try to remember as best I could. But these are probably very preschool, very childish letters. But I did what I could. It made me appreciate how much patience um, they would have for calligraphy, because to make it so perfect and beautiful and fluid like you see in those paintings, just amazing. It was hard, but I am proud of what I did right and doing the best that I could. I can see all my inconsistencies and where I was shaky and hesitant, and it's really neat how the ink shows that. Um, a little embarrassing, but that's fine. Anyway, here's another view of those Chinese ink paintings that I did. I'm very proud of these. I think they look really cool. Um, yeah. Here's my Western inspired Chinese ink painting. I think it doesn't match the medium as well. I think the Asian environment of the trees and the mountains match the ink and the fluidity a lot more than the harshness and the jaggedness of the red rock. This could be my lack of skill though, but in my opinion, this environment just doesn't match this medium form as well as the Asian environment does, which is really cool to see. And I'm happy that I tried this so that I could see that for myself. It obviously isn't terrible, and it probably could be executed a lot better, but just in my own eyes, I kind of see those different variables. Anyway, I wrote a poem and I tried to write it as they would with 4 lines, and then I wrote it in Chinese characters in calligraphy, like I was talking about before. Anyway, my poem is: desert sky and desert sand, sun on my skin. I walk towards what calls me, and it's the desert that says my name. Something simple, something that talks about nature is typically what their poems would be about. I'm not going to try and say it in Chinese, even though I did take Mandarin. I don't have confidence in my abilities right now, so I apologize, but it is there in pinyin and in the characters and the correct characters versus my writing. Anyway, here is my works cited for all of my research, and thank you for joining me.